We've got hi-hats just on every 8th note, right? And that's just open, close, open, close, open, close. Because we've got those dotted notes in the bass, so everything in the drums are revolving around those dotted, normal, dotted, normal. And the thing is that those hi-hats at the top, they sort of keep that squareness to the rhythm, so you've got the hi-hats that just right, and then you've got the syncopation underneath with the kick drum and the snare. So let's listen to how that feels. And I think this drum kit, I was playing around with these drum kits, I think we want the pop drum kit. So this chorus is a little simpler here. I like to add lots of little ghost notes. There's a couple of tom hits, and the clap is on that second to last beat. So there's a bit of a lag here between the display and the sound, but you'll see that 39 there is a clap, and so on that like, well, not quite the last beat, but yeah. Cool. All right. And then I've just got a little bit of bongos and congas. These are essentially just things I'll layer into the music later on. They don't sound great in Guitar Pro, but once I put them through Logic's percussion library, I find that they sound really cool. I've used them in previous tracks, and so these are essentially like shakers, just trying to keep that rhythm. And then in the verse, you'll see that there's just a couple of like little sort of bongo hits, and those are really nice to just put off in the periphery of the song, so that if you're listening with headphones, you can sort of hear things in the distance. You know, you pan them quite wide, and you can hear sort of bongos left and right, sort of outside of the field, and it just feels like there's sort of I like it. It feels sort of tribal. It makes it sound like you're listening to music around a campfire, and then on the outskirts of the campfire, there's a couple of people playing bongos, right? That's the feeling that these percussion instruments will give once we add that stereo effect. So right now it's not going to sound spectacular, but this is... And then during the chorus, we essentially emphasize that bass rhythm with the shakers, right? Dotted, normal, dotted, normal, right? Dun, 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 dun. And you can see these little V's represent emphasized notes in Guitar Pro. Well, in music. And I think for the chorus, we don't really do much else with those. There's not really much of an ending to the song, because honestly I don't expect most people to get to the end. We're going to be using it for like a game trailer. We're probably just going to fade it out, or it just loops in the game, so I haven't really written an ending. So that's sort of track by track how I put this thing together. And for better or for worse, let's listen to the whole thing and realize that these instruments are temporary. This is just the Guitar Pro's built-in library, so it's quite close to like a MIDI system. These aren't real instruments. It's just giving you a rough approximation of what the song could look like or sound like with the various instrumentation applied to it. So especially, I suppose we don't really have a lot of guitar. I guess the muted bass would be a guitar. Guitar sounds are going to always sound a bit robotic because it's just a computer playing them, but let's give it a go. Okay, so that's the, I guess that's the basics of that song. As I said, the instruments are leaving a lot to be desired, but yeah, they're, how would I say that? Robotic head. Oh yeah. It feels like robotic head. No, it's robotic head. There you go. Okay, so that's going to be our theme, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to export that. In fact, let's open up Logic now. And so you can actually get, as long as you own a Mac, which, yeah, this is going to be expensive usually to buy a Mac, but you can actually get the trial version of Logic for free, and I think it lasts like 2 months, 3 months, which is pretty generous. Logic has, the one thing about Logic compared to most other DAWs is that it just has so many things built in, so many libraries, so many VSTs, that it's kind of just, if you don't want to think about plugins, then Logic's really good, because I mean, like, if you want to do music production full time, you're gonna have to source your own plugins and really find your own sound. But if you just want to stick to something relatively simple and just have a lot of things ready and waiting out of the box, then Logic's just really good for that. So this is something I prepared earlier. In fact, I'm probably just gonna get rid of most of it, I think. I'll probably keep these instruments, because I found these instruments that I kind of liked. As you can see, we've got the Asian kit for our percussion. We've got an 80s pop bass for our muted plucky bass line. Our bass line was sort of more body and more oomph. That's going to be the retro fuzz. Our electric piano, we've got a bit of fuzz there. Now this is all going to sound really, really messy because I haven't tweaked these instruments at all. But we can give this a listen and see how this sounds. Although, yeah, I might actually go through the whole workflow again. So you can see that this is my library on the left. I've just gone through all of these sounds and picked ones that I kind of liked to start with. So you know, that's just really time consuming, and I'm not going to do that on stream. What I'm going to do is actually just save as, and we're going to destruct some of this anyway. Okay, we're going to say this is V2, and I'm just going to remove, these are all just MIDI sections of the song, so let's just get rid of those. Okay. Because I made a couple of updates in Guitar Pro since then. So what I'm going to do is, the first thing is I'm going to export my MIDI, and let's just create a new folder for our exports, and that's going to be splitraces.mid. In addition to that, I quite like to do this, and you'll probably crucify me for this, but so when you export from Guitar Pro, you need AIFF format, and you want to put your normalization up. Actually, before I do this, I'm just going to go through, and you want to keep your, like, most of your effects on, but anything like delay, that is anything like reverb, tremolo should be okay. You don't really want any reverb in there. EQ should be alright, but these reverbs, we're just going to turn these off. That chorus. So it basically just depends how much work you want to redo on these tracks. So like, yeah. Okay, cool. This allows you to layer the sounds a little nicer. That's going to be standard. Okay. So I'm going to use the MIDI for my digital instruments in Logic, and I'm going to use the tracks from Guitar Pro to actually just layer on top of them. And sometimes they sound terrible and I'll just delete those, but sometimes they sound quite good, and so I keep them in place. And then for our song, you can see our reverb's off, and we're not doing any EQing across the total track. Okay, so we've turned all our reverb off because we want to be using buses in Logic to do our reverb. And I'm just going to export that audio at -1 decibels and using the AIFF format. And let's just stick that in that exports there. So that's going to export each of our tracks as an individual file, and then we'll be able to bring those straight into